Okay, let's be honest for a second. Have you ever looked at someone and thought, how in the world are they running 5 miles before 7 a.m., drinking their, nutrient-filled green smoothie, meditating for 20 minutes, journaling, and checking all their emails in their inboxes at zero, and everything seems to be just perfectly fine? And think to yourself that, wow, I need better willpower. I need more discipline. And you start beating yourself up and you start pondering that for a little bit. And 5 minutes later, you're still in your pajamas, just sitting there thinking about what you want to do and not really getting into action. We start to beat ourselves up about it. And I've been there. I had this same kind of thing where I had a huge judgment call on people that had these morning rituals, that had these things that they were doing every morning and, getting up, working out, doing yoga, meditating, blah, 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 whatever, the list goes on. And I often thought, gosh, life is boring that way. Does that really help anything? You're just so predictable. And what I realized years later was that it wasn't about my level of willpower or my level of discipline. Sure, there's some discipline in there. You've got to want to do those things, of course. But it was more about my environment. I was sabotaging myself. I was creating these tiny little obstacles that were sabotaging my best intentions. And I remember, many, many years ago, probably over 20 years ago now, I declared that I would do the sun salutation every morning with sunrise. I envisioned myself just, waking up and glowingly doing a warrior pose and bringing in the day. And I did it for about 3 days, I can remember. And then after that, I couldn't find my yoga mat. It was like under a pile of, decoration. I think it was around Christmas time. And it was crazy. It was like, what am I doing? And then I started beating myself up in my mind. I'm unmotivated. I'm so lazy. How can I get myself to do it? And it wasn't that. It was just that I didn't design my environment to help me do the thing that I wanted to. And that is what friction in our life looks like. And friction is anything that makes a task harder than it has to be. And we do this to ourselves. It could be a physical thing, like hiding your running shoes in the trunk of your car or putting your yoga mat in the trunk of your car where you can't see it. It could be on an emotional level. The overwhelming dread of something new that you hold yourself back. You start blaming other people and other experiences that you've had of why you're not starting anew. It could be even something digital, a digital friction that creates, like the meditation map app that swipes, you have to swipe 5 or 6 times just to get, into the meditation. I mean, you get the idea. It's amazing how we create these little obstacles. And the more friction that we face, the more willpower it's going to take to actually consistently overcome these obstacles. So if you're constantly surrounded by little obstacles, you might feel like you're failing, but you're not. You're just outnumbered. I mean, the good news is you don't have to become a super disciplined productivity, robot machine. It's not about that. I will say this, fast forward 20 years later, I do have a morning ritual that I do. I am one of those people that I used to judge. I am one of those people that gets up in the morning and does some form of exercise, yoga, meditation, journaling. I do all those things well before anybody else is awake. And it's interesting because my body, I don't even need to set an alarm clock for it. My body automatically gets up. I automatically get up because of the discipline of doing it. And you know why I do it? I realize that it's just not about only, that you need to make the helpful things easier to do, but the unhelpful things harder to get to. Okay, so for example, if you want to read more, put your book on top of your phone at nighttime. You want to cut the scrolling time? Log out of your social media apps. Take your social media apps off your phone. I know a lot of you are going to stress out when you hear that, but move them off your home screen at least. If you want to stop checking your email the second you wake up, buy a separate alarm clock that you don't have to use your phone as your alarm clock, or charge your phone outside the bedroom. These tiny tweaks are going to make a huge impact. I mean, that's what it was for me when I started realizing that the disciplined routine for me was about my well-being, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And that if I didn't do that, I wasn't going to be able to help other people. And I tried to avoid it for many years. I remember kind of flip-flopping, going between, being disciplined and not being disciplined. And what I realized is that every time that I wasn't being disciplined or wasn't sticking to what I intended to do is because I was creating all these little friction points. And it's not about being perfect. It's not about being perfect at all. It's about lowering that barrier between you and what you actually want. I had a client many years ago that wanted to start journaling. She kept on saying, I just don't have this discipline to do it. I just don't, And it turned out that her journal was buried in a drawer, the bottom of a drawer. So I told her, I said, move it to your nightstand. And what happened was it didn't happen overnight, but the more that she got to see it, she just started journaling one day. And the problem wasn't even motivation. It was about the location of it. We don't need to rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And if your system is full of friction, willpower, discipline, all of those things will not save you. But if you design it right, it will. This is something that has been prolific in my life along the way. It's made such a difference in being able to daily connect with myself, daily, check in with myself to make sure that whatever I'm doing, I am setting out to do whatever I have for myself in the best intentions and how I want to make actual lifelong changes. It's a really interesting thing because as human beings, we don't necessarily want to take credit or take responsibility actually for the things that we are creating in our lives. And it doesn't mean that we have to just change everything altogether. But if you're saying that you want to do something and it's not happening, I will tell you that, the art of really shaping your environment to make good habits easier and bad habits harder, that's the stuff that works on behind the scenes. Think about brushing your teeth, right? You don't give yourself a motivational speech before doing it every single time because your toothbrush is right there. You've designed that into your life. And this is what we have to do. We have to design it into our life. Put it in our agenda if you need to. I have many patients and clients that live by their calendar. I'm like, put your time, your commitment to yourself in your calendar. And don't beat yourself up about not doing something. It's a matter of what are you doing to create the environment. This isn't about blaming ourselves either. It's about noticing when we're putting barriers between us and what we really want. You don't need to try harder. Just design smarter in your life. I remember another client of mine wanted to start reading at night instead of scrolling her phone. And she really flipped out whenever I said, take off, your social media apps. And she was like, no, I can't do it. I said, okay, how about you put your phone on airplane mode and put it across the room. And now put your book that you're wanting to read, whatever you're reading at that time, on top of your phone. And slowly, little by little, she started reading more. And it wasn't because she just magically turned into a disciplined person overnight. It was because she reduced the barrier there. It's very simple and it's very subtle, very powerful. This works both ways. If you want to stop a bad habit or stop a habit, add friction. Delete the app. Move the junk food to the top shelf. Better yet, don't even buy the junk food. You want to start something? Remove the friction. Lay your shoes out. Keep your journal on your desk. Put your water bottle where you will literally trip over it. You're not lazy. We're just all human beings. And humans respond to what's easier. That became really apparent to me whenever I moved countries as well. This helped me, I will tell you, by me having a certain kind of regimented kind of way of the things that I knew that I needed to take care of myself with. And it was challenging when I first moved overseas because the environment that I went into, all the people in that environment were not necessarily had the same mindset. And so that challenged me. I got out of balance pretty quickly, actually. And I realized, wait a second, there's going to be some things that I just need to be doing. You know, we don't need to push harder. We don't need to muscle through every good habit with like this brute force. Let's just make things easy on ourselves, you know, on purpose. If you want to drink more water, get a cup that you actually like to drink out of. You want to work out, lay your clothes out, whatever it may be. So here's what I want to leave with you today. Instead of asking yourself, why can't I just do this? Ask yourself, what's making this harder than it needs to be? And then what's the only one tiny thing that I can change to reduce the friction in my life? Just one tiny thing. Small shifts, big change. That's it. Because maybe you don't need more willpower. You just need to move that yoga mat to where you can see it. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a comment. I'd love to hear about what's going on with you in your life right now, what we can talk about in the future. Send this to a friend that may need a little less friction in his or her life as well. Let me leave you with this. What's one thing you say you want to do, and what tiny friction is getting in that way? What's the one shift you can make today to change that pattern? You don't need a new personality. You just need a new setup. Thank you so much, and see you next time.